The Disorganized Wizard Club podcast is sponsored, as always, by wizardtower.com. Check them out online for all your Magic single needs. Free shipping on singles in Canada. And if you're in the Ottawa area, check them out this weekend, July 21st, for their wizardtower.com standard open qualifier starting at 11 a.m. Registration $15, registration until 10:45. Be sure to check out wizardtower.com for all your core 2019 single needs, as well as mtgcanada.com for other great podcasts like the Commander's Brew, as well as strategy articles. Welcome back to episode 91 of the Disorganized Wizards Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Adam.
Hello.
And Cam.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournament stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
Oh, we definitely are talking about decks today.
Oh, you believe we're talking about decks today.
Yeah, there's no stories. There's no nothing. Just decks.
Only decks. Going to be talking a lot about Standard today.
It's the DWC deck dump.
Oh, yeah. We've got a whole bunch of new Standard decks from all the Moto 5.0 lists, from the SCG, pretty much from everything.
We're going to talk about
a few we cooked up as well.
a bunch of brews and archetypes and what's going on in Standard right now. Different decks you can play. We think that many of them are playable and viable.
Yeah, Standard is very wide open and very exciting right now.
The symptom of 9 sets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 9 set Standard.
Yeah.
So
The core set really, really shook things up. I mean, this happened when Dominaria came into Standard too.
yeah,
Everything got wild, and now the exact same thing's happening.
Yeah, no, Standard hasn't been a sort of one deck place despite the fears and even Watsy saying, with Chain Whirler, right? Like, It's actually been wild for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the sort of week that was at the Star City Games team event, and again, hate that team events have been the sort of first major Standard events over the last couple Standard seasons, because we don't know what the best performing Standard decks were from these events, so it's very frustrating.
And like so many of the decks that did well at the team event, and probably I imagine a lot of what people were playing were just updated or exact versions of last season's decks, because they're safe, we know they're good, their teammates probably pressured them into like not trying some wacky new thing.
Right. So the SCG team event was basically dominated by red, black, and blue-white control.
Yeah, top 4 was 3 red, black, and 1 blue-white deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of the...
Just safe. Just, a heads up that obviously those decks remain a huge part of the metagame, but we're not going to talk about them as our major kind of different archetypes we're going to talk about today, because blue-white's known.
Yeah.
The variations of it are known and obvious, and red-black is obviously still an insanely good deck, same with mono-red, so we're not going to waste time basically talking about them. People know that they're decks.
But yeah, we've listed out 10 different archetypes from New Standard, and some of them are complete brews from our side, and then a few of them are just our takes on specific decks.
And some are sort of a hybrid of both.
Yeah.
So there was like some brews we had that also someone else independently 5-0'd with that was a bit different than us. And we were like, oh, sweet. Like, okay, we're not crazy. Like someone else also tried this and 5-0'd. So that's been a cool part of the recent Standard. And again, this is just a symptom of big set Standard. Standard is wacky.
Man,
Yeah.
Speaking about like coming up with ideas and then someone else also coming up with their idea and championing it, there was an article on Channel Fireball about how you should play even odd to see who goes first instead of high roll.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't...
They're just catching on.
It wasn't actually even odd. It was like someone choose even odd, then everyone rolls a bunch of dice, and you add up
That's still
some
even.
of all the dice.
That's still even odd.
Yeah,
it's just with 2 people rolling because people are paranoid and don't understand statistics. And
Yeah. The reason, did you read his reasoning?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it's because so that way no one can have cheat or loaded dice. Well, someone calling even odd.
Yeah.
you let your opponent pick and then
Right.
you roll.
And
Yeah.
So
that's not possible.
they don't know what loaded dice you have.
Right.
It's still 50-50.
But anyway, people are slowly learning.
Yes.
I mean, if you really want to abuse the system, you champion even odd, and you have a dice company who sells loaded odd dice. You sell enough of these that it's likely your opponent, if they have loaded dice, has your loaded dice, and then you pick odd.
You got to game the system.
It's so ridiculous how paranoid everybody is. And but it was nice to see, and then someone in the comments was like, this is actually Ross Miriam's idea for recently. And I wanted to feel like, actually, here's the link from like a year ago where Cam was talking about it. So thanks for listening to our podcast and stealing our ideas.
All right, so we're gonna talk a lot about standard today, but I wanted to briefly jump into the SCG for a moment because there was a Grixis Delver deck that top forward playing
Legacy Egg, Noah Walker.
4 Bomat Courier, which is definitely not something we've seen before.
Yeah, Death Rate's gone.
Yeah, is this good?
1/1s can attack. Yeah, what's
It's just Ancestral Bolt in a format where both of those are very good.
I mean, like the option is they block with their Delver.
Yeah.
And dies, if you know what I mean. If it's on turn 1, which okay, sure, like I'll trade for a Delver because that's what's going to kill me in those decks, or it gets to keep going and draws cards. Like against combo, it's sweet.
Man, you can trade with Mongoose too.
Yeah,
Oh. Jeez,
I don't know that it's like great, but
it seemed interesting.
Yeah.
Caught my attention.
pretty cool. Like innovation.
Yeah.
It's also got to be better if it's drawing more expensive cards.
Will they be cheaper?
So
cards?
well, but in older formats.
Oh, you mean like worth more actual money?
Yeah.
All right, that's all I wanted to talk about. Not standard. So
It's the difference between like the mailman walking down the road and like those armored trucks.
All right, so we're going to kick off this list. These decks are in no particular order. We've just kind of listed them off 1 through 10. So we're going to go through each one. Kicking things off with this deck has just been taken out the trash online recently. Mono green aggro.
Yeah, and variations thereof.
This is a real underdog story coming to the limelight.
Well, it's super
Green
interesting.
unplayable. Now green can't be stopped.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, according to the banned and restricted announcement, when they didn't ban Chain Whirler, they were saying that mono green had the highest win percentage on Moto.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I could believe that now. It's just
It's
been
like people
kicking everyone's
listened.
teeth in.
It also got 2 or more very important cards.
Right, and this
Yeah.
is sort of this will help define what we're going to do when we talk about these like 10 archetypes or decks you play that we think are all sort of playable in standard, which is what the conversation today is. Like you can kind of play anything.
Yeah.
And then the 2 major cards. The first one is like Vinemare, which we had nightmares about last week.
I mean,
Cam
I'm
did,
still
and-
having them.
And
Yeah.
turns out that card is pretty good in standard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
just huge. And hexproof. And
we're definitely on the Vinemare main deck train.
Yeah, I think the fact that Bolus can't block it, Scarab God can't block it, Glendsleeve can't block it, Blue Black Gift has a hard time doing anything about it. You know, anything brought back from Scarab God can't block it.
It's a bit awkward trying to attack into Chain Whirler. Like it depends on how popular red decks are.
Yeah.
A bit of like seeing 3 or 4 copies of this main might be that people are trying other decks other than just 4 Chain Whirler lists at the moment online. But we've also seen green lists playing things like Blanchwood Armor or other enchantments, or you can just wait until you have a Blossoming Defense, or you're attacking with a bunch of stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty safe to suit up Vinemare with some enchantments or a Blossoming Defense or whatever. Right?
yeah.
So,
And so,
yeah,
yeah, you can just still attack past a Chain Whirler.
Yeah,
like
and
if
it's-
you time it right.
And it's got the stats that you know, if you're playing Ronus is going to attack the turn after. You know, if you curve Ronus into Vinemare, it helps with your Galta if you're playing Galta. Like, it just does a lot. This card's very good. Whether it's main or side, it needs to be in your 75.
Ronus and Divine Mare is actually quite good because we've talked about, there was an episode at some point where we were comparing and contrasting Ronus and Hazaret, and the issue was that your opponent can choose to turn off Ronus if they want or deal with Ronus, but now they can't. They have to have something to do with Ronus if you have a Vine Mare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're big proponents of the combination of those two. So
Yeah. And if we didn't mention this already, we're going to be posting our take on each of these deck lists we talk about on our Twitter at DWC Podcast 1 and on our Facebook, the Disorganized Club Podcast. So you can check out all our takes on every list we mention on this podcast.
yeah, what we think the best build is going forward. Yeah, and then the other card, the mono green deck's got is Thorn Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thorn Lieutenant is a house. That card is great.
It's a place to put your mana late.
What can't it do?
Yeah, it's card's insane. The 1/1's fine. You know, like you will find a purpose for it, especially when you're deck playing Ronus.
Yeah.
You know, having somewhere to put your mana in a green deck later gives you more play. This is a card I was quite confident was going to be good and played in every single deck that played green. Didn't matter what they were. Mid-range decks, aggro decks. This is a card that I was, you know, even in our top 10 lists, right? I was quite adamant that this card would be one of the defining cards in Standard going forward. I still think so. Like, we tried it out in a bunch of different decks, and it was good everywhere. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we also, so if you are looking at our deck list right now, you'll probably notice it's not mono green, that we are playing black for Scrap Heap Scrounger. We think black, playing Scrap Heap just gives you a little, like, it tilts you a little more aggressively, and having access to black sideboard cards is definitely something we think you want to be doing.
Yeah, especially if control decks going forward are still going to be as dominant as they were. It's not like Teferi got any less powerful.
Yeah, and one of the worst matchups for this deck coming off last standard was control decks. Blue-white, fumigate, settle the wreckage deck. So having access to black, so you can play cards like Duress, definitely gives you game versus these strategies.
That's why I like Resilient Kenra too. Like, you can play it and it's good that turn. Like, it's fairly aggressive. It's 2 extra stats with haste, but it also gives you play. Like, if you get fumigated, which is one of the hardest cards to beat.
Yeah, and it's also great.
Have another card in your hand.
It's also great to target with your Viner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Get your guy in
Just
for a
get
few
him
more
with the
damage.
1-2 punch.
Lets you attack through Chain Whirler.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good card.
That's a combo.
Yeah. So if you're a green fan and you've been living a rough life lately, welcome back. You're playable once again.
Yeah. Yeah. I really do like Vivian Reed in the sideboard. That card has been very impressive.
Yeah, it's really flexible. Cool. It can come in versus lots of different strategies.
Yeah. I like that it can pick off a bolus.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it hit. I thought it just killed
just artifacts
and enchantments. I didn't realize it also hits flyers, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It can come in lots of matchups. Like, it's just a diverse sideboard card that covers a lot of bases, and then also gets to use some card advantage afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where she learned archery that she can't just shoot straight, but
why do they have to be in the air?
Yeah.
They're straight in front of her. She can't hit them.
No.
Yeah, so getting off this, the mono green, we're going to have to talk about Nicol Bolas, because it was our number 1 card from our spoiler episode, if you listen to us. And a lot of people have been trying to fit this card in multiple different strategies.
Yeah, our number 2 on our list of different decks that we think are playable, interesting, or viable right now in standard, or decks we think are cool. I don't know how dominant they'll be, but they 5-0'd or they've done well in testing. Are just infinite Bolas lists, right?
Yeah, and there's been so many flavors. There's aggro versions that are playing Goblin Chain Whirler. There's control versions.
Triple red into my Grixis mana cost.
You have the control versions that are playing, Scarab God, Trunchbull, Gearhulk, and Bolas. Then you have basically blue-black mid-range, splashing red for only Bolas. You have Dragons decks that are playing Sarkhan, Glorybringer, and Bolas. Like, there's lots of different homes for this card right now.
Tons, yeah. I mean, Sarkhan helps enable it across different archetypes as well. Like, I don't think Sarkhan's good in the aggressive lists. Like, I've seen some aggressive lists posted that play kind of Sarkhan, and we mentioned this actually recently on the podcast, like trying to play Sarkhan plus Scrap Heap Scrounger so you can get that rummage value.
Yeah.
But he's just not actually that good in a low to the ground aggressive deck. We found it was way better just having 1 and 2 drop removal and then play Sarkhan. He's already protected, right? And then you curve it, you ramp out a Glorybringer and kill their next thing.
Yeah, I've been playing a version online with Sarkhans and Scrap Heaps, and it's been really underwhelming. It's not my favorite version of the deck.
Yeah, I think the more mid-rangey versions with Sarkhan are very good.
Oh, yeah. I've also been playing one that's playing like Scarab God. Still aggro, slanted. I'm playing like Karazev and stuff, but I liked it a lot better. It wasn't playing. This one wasn't playing Sarkhan, like a Sarkhanless version. Okay, You're basically just
like a Grixis aggro.
Yeah, a Grixis aggro deck without Sarkhan. And I really liked that one.
Yeah, I think those are better versions. I think if you're gonna play Sarkhan, you need to be a deck that can, You
want to try and maximize it. You want to have 1 or 2 drop removal to protect it. Have enough dragons that you can cast one ahead of curve once you stick a Sarkhan.
Yeah, and then just go from there. Yeah. And usually the deck can get through, but it needs to have just a bunch of Harness Lightning Braids or Magma Sprays. Like, it needs to have a way to keep it clear for the first couple turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played a list like that was just a mid-range Grixis Energy with Sarkhans. And
yeah, Whirler Virtuoso really good in that deck.
Yeah, because it can double protect your Sarkhan from in the air and the ground. Yeah. But yeah, all night I just wanted more 2-drop removal, 1 and 2 drop removal. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Have any of you guys flipped a Bolas yet?
Yep. Well, lots.
A bunch of times at pre-release.
But no, in testing we flipped it a lot.
Yeah.
It actually happens more than you think. Just like I was trying to say, I said to a friend of mine, our friend LP, who gets mentioned on the show all the time. I said the same thing about Resplendent Angel and Thorn Lieutenant, that the activation comes up way more than you think. And same with Bolas. I found that in testing, people are trading resources, especially because of Bolus's built-in card advantage. Eventually you just get to a point where both players have nothing left, but you have a Bolus in play, and that's it. You get to flip it, and the game is basically over.
Yeah. It's I have been really impressed with Bolus so far, and it'll be really interesting to see how the decks kind of evolve, and if it'll narrow down to like a consensus best list.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Or it'll just stay.
I think also that card is going to remain at the top.
There was very little consensus between all of like the red-black versions last season, and I don't see anybody agreeing anymore now, considering probably how many versions of this are viable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think by core consensus, there's going to be like, here are the 52 core cards.
Oh, okay, sure.
What 8 others, whatever.
Yeah,
you know what
fair.
I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll post what we think are the best sort of like Grixis deck, Bolus deck later on this list.
The one issue I've been having with it so far is that your mana obviously can be awkward. And with decks floating around like mono green that are just so smooth and just playing massive guys each turn, it's been a little awkward. You stumble at all and you're just dead.
Yeah. I think that's why mono green has been doing so well, is it preys on this archetype. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would be
definitely.
surprised if you weren't struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's why we're saying like play Vinemare main, because if you want, you just get free wins against this deck. These decks, they can't do anything.
Yeah. And I mean, just curving Llanowar Elf into Steel Leaf Champion is like
Already scary.
yeah.
Now you have more threats.
You might just steal games just off that start as well.
All right, now we get into some brews. These are the pretty known decks, and
Now this deck is sweet. Good old Black White Knights.
yeah, and this is a deck that people had sort of been trying when Dominaria was out, but it was missing a few key pieces, right?
Yeah. So really, what did this gain?
I mean, a Johnny.
A Johnny's a huge one.
Right. Like, I just think that the power level, I think that this is going to help define standard actually over the next year, especially following rotation back to 4-set standard, is the combination of History of Benalia into a Johnny.
Yeah.
It is such an incredible amount of power for the card and mana spent on, getting some 6 power attackers.
A Johnny has been very, very frightening to play against.
Yes, it gets out of control very fast to the point where you just cannot win and you cannot do anything. And there are different lists that have done well, like lists, and this is a combo of cards. I was curious, was like all the Vampire Knights essentially, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which is like Ariel, Windgrace, Vona, like
Ariel's not a vampire.
Yeah. I know it's not.
It's just
but
black-white.
A lot of
and
they're
Black
different
Knight, okay.
vampires / knights, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Like they're all, because a bunch of them are Vampire Knights, which is funny.
Vona.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they get pumped by Valiant Knight, and there's like been a whole bunch of brews of this, but Knight of Grace, Knight of Malice are just by themselves very good cards.
Yep.
History of Benalia makes them, Black Knight very good, like the White Knight's very good with the rest of the deck having a black-white combination. Like there's lots of ways to build this deck as well. Like you can build it with a monument if you wanted. Like if Chain Whaler is not in the format and the format becomes more mid-rangey and control, then I think you want to actually build this as a monument version. Cut a few cards and add 4 monuments. And because the fair decks can't beat monument.
Oh, it's terrible. I played against it recently.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. It had been off my radar for so long. And yeah, I had Harness Lightning's Magma Sprays.
Like these Bolus decks can't beat it.
Yeah.
Like you have to draw a braid in time. If you draw it late, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And even then, like if they have another one in their hand or if they've made too many 1/1s, like it's too many 1/1s, man.
Yeah.
Do you think if you're playing red right now, you want to have 4 braids in your main deck?
Yes. Not in your main, but in your 75, I think
Yeah.
you want at least 3, definitely 4 if you're playing red. Just because like we're going to talk about gift decks. There's
you can't.
there's so many playable oddball artifacts that someone could have.
I'm kind of in the camp that you need 4
Heart's
in your
still-
7.
Heart's
I think
around
it's
in
hard.
green.
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard, yes, that
Yeah.
you need 4 in your 75. I think you have to have 4 in your 75, and it's not even like a question to me because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like the Black White Knights deck actually, just gaining a Johnny was huge for them.
You also got Valiant Knight as well, which is your Knight Lord.
Yeah, that card, I don't know. I don't think I would include it in a lot of lists. If I was playing Monument, yes. If I wasn't, no. There are some lists that play Benelish Marshal, which is interesting. Like
I do like Benelish Marshal.
yeah, the deck's interesting to me also just because Ariel and Vona both have Vigilance, so you're able to attack. Like if you have both in play, You can sort of like it gives the deck a lot of interesting play. You can choose to destroy a permanent or tap Ariel or make more knights, like, or if you have also Valiant Knight in play, you can choose to give them double strike. Like it gives the deck a lot of decisions in play that
Feels like
normally these decks don't have.
Feels like a deck that if you're familiar with playing, your opponent will often block wrong, and you can take advantage of that.
Yeah,
It looks like a deck that has extremely strong combat steps.
yeah, like Dauntless Bodyguard
Yeah.
is good in this deck. Like, just it's good in the red zone. It's a deck that really takes advantage of someone being good in combat and
Good at combat math, yeah.
Yeah. So pretty cool. There's lots of different ways. It has cool sideboard options. Classically black and white are some of the best sideboard colors because you get access to Remorseful Cleric, which is a huge sideboard card, and Argyl's Bloodfast for control matchups and duress. So
Yeah.
this deck is able to sort of cover the spread. We know white and black has great removal. You get to main deck fatal pushes. It has some Thopter arrests.
Man, Cleric is going to be so huge.
Yeah, Cleric's a big deal. It's aggressive and then answers. It's sort of Brontodite, so like the white Brontodon, right?
Yeah.
These hate cards that are just a good rate to play, from the board or main, maybe depending on your deck list. And then they also have some, hate advantage, but they're not too powerful that it's a problem. So they're good. But I think the black-white Knight decks actually have a chance now with the minor changes to be real, right? Like I think a Johnny goes a long way.
Yeah. I think a Johnny is huge. That card, very, very impressive. I like that card a lot.
Yep.
And we'll be talking about it more. But next up on our list, this deck.
Oh, yeah.
Man. So
If you're going to F&M and you have these cards,
Which you probably do.
which you probably do because apart from Old Carney T, this is not a pricey deck to build. And this deck is sweet.
Man, so the first time I saw it was the second deck done. And the first deck on the list was the red-green Sarkhan's Unsealing deck. I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, this is sweet.
It's just Plague Wind. Just 4 mana.
Okay, so the deck we're talking about is red-green Dino Unsealing,
Yeah.
which is playing 4 copies of Sarkhan's Unsealing, which maybe we should read just in case because you wouldn't think it's as good as it is, but we talked about this actually in our
We
limited
talked
episode
about it as
how
being unbeatable.
it's unbeatable.
Yeah.
And apparently sometimes when that happens in limited, apparently people go, I'm going to build a standard deck.
I mean, Pack Brat was unbeatable in limited, so it turned out being pretty good in standard.
I think the kicker here is whenever you cast,
yeah,
it's it's a red and 3 colorless enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, it deals 4 damage to any target. And that's
pretty good.
really good. And then if you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, it deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature planeswalker they control, like this.
Yeah.
And like the real shout out here is this deck is playing 4 Gigantosaurs.
I don't like how they keep printing these red effects that invalidate creatures. Like, you can't play X4s if this is in the format.
Oh, man.
It's just like you can't play anything X4 or less, or just completely warps the format.
What were they thinking?
It'll just get Wrath by Sarkhan's Unsealing.
Man.
This deck is awesome.
Yeah.
This deck
gets me stoked.
I think this deck is legitimately, first off, I think it's actually good.
Yeah.
Because it gives the red-green monsters deck reach that it previously lacked.
Yes. If you would watch, like, had talked about how, like, Mono Green's hardest matchup was Control, and you'd watch and they would hit Control for, I don't know, a lot, 19, and Control would be at 1, and would fumigate them, go up to, like, 4, and then they would never take another hit again because it involves resolving a creature, untapping, and then getting through combat with that creature, which once the Control deck is stabilized, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
But if at some point while you're attacking your opponent, you resolve a Sarkhan's Unsealing because they had to deal with something in combat so they didn't die, and so they're tapped out second main, now you don't have to get through combat. You can just cast burn spells that are large green creatures.
That deal 4.
Yeah.
Every big creature in your deck deals 4.
Yeah, you just start drawing.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Whatever
It's
that card is.
so...
I love that this deck has game against everything. You can just smash creatures
I mean, it
decks
also gets
because
to
you're
play
playing
Banefire,
Unsealing.
so versus
Yeah.
Control, like...
You also have Banefire and you have Carnage Tyrant.
Yeah,
Man, you have game against everything with this, and it looks so sweet on paper.
This deck has to be good versus aggro, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you just play a 5-mana 10-10 on turn 4.
Yeah.
Or
What are you gonna do?
3.
Yeah.
Like, this can play it on turn 3. This
Yeah.
can play Gigantosaurus on turn 3. Also, like, against red decks, you just mow down their board. How do they beat Sarkhan's Unsealing? Like,
I don't think they can.
Right. Like this deck seems very good to me.
You can block with Hazaret.
And like this deck probably costs nothing. I'm going to buy the pieces for it. Apart from Carnage Tyrants. This deck is like,
Yeah, we have Tyrants.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
I'm saying for listeners though, like,
Oh, yeah.
if you can't afford Carnage Tyrants or you only have one or two, there's only 3 in this list, but Gigantosaurus, I mean, that card's not expensive. Sarkazon Ceiling, that card's, you know what I mean? Like, this deck's like a cheap brew for people to try out if they're listening that I think is actually quite good.
Yeah. And you still get the busted start of Llanowar Elf into Steel Leaf Champion.
Yeah, I don't know if Steel Leafs are expensive. Probably not that much.
I don't know. Probably,
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably going up because of recent
recently.
success. But, I mean, still, like, that card's going to be a staple because Llanowar Elves is in the format, yada, yada. But
Yeah.
this deck is sweet.
And you get to play Vinemare in your sideboard.
Yep.
God. This deck has it all, guys.
Yeah, this deck is gas.
Yeah.
This deck is one of the sweeter decks I've seen in Standard in a while.
Nomination for Deck of the Day.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think this is the sweetest deck on our list.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we had talked about, between ourselves, like coming up with a red-green monsters list and
This guy
didn't get
beat us.
around to it. Yeah, this guy just blew us out of the water.
Yeah, we can't. This is insane. Yeah, 4 Gigantosaurus. Like I'm all about this list. It's just hilarious. Like
It's not even red-green monsters anymore. It's just red-green giants.
red green dinos, man. It also has 4 Regisaur Alpha.
Oh, yeah.
Like this deck is wild.
Man.
Gigantosaurus needs haste, man.
Exactly. What else did he need?
Yeah.
It's just a funny, and he definitely needs trample. Well, there's Aronis in this list, so
He doesn't really need trample if you just wrath your opponent.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they going to block with? You cast something else and kill their blocker, then you attack for 10.
Yeah, unplayable X4s.
Yeah. And laugh at them for including, bad creatures.
Yeah. All right. So moving off this one.
Another sweet big fatty list.
So this deck popped up right at the end of last standard, and it gained a new worm. So we're talking about the is it 4-color?
Yeah, the 4-color Sifter Worm, now also Palaka Worm decks.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a really good deck, and I didn't believe it. And Cam aggressively refused to believe it.
I'm coming around on it.
Until I kept beating him with it.
Yeah, I kept thinking because we played it against red, and my thought process was, all right, red was very popular at the time that this deck cropped up. It makes sense that even though I didn't see it immediately, it had to have a good red matchup. So let's play it against blue-black, because that's got to be bad. And then I lost playing blue-black against it, and then try something else, and I lost playing that. And it does. It looks like it does nothing because there's so many things in it, but it can actually just do all of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting deck, and I think it gained really like Palaka Worm. Whether you play Palaka Worm or Sifter Worm, because a lot of lists play one or the other, I think you can play a split if you want. Isn't a huge deal. The real thing is it gained Banefire.
Yeah.
Because before you would sort of have to, like, Cut Ribbons is still great, but you would sort of have to rely on Cut Ribbons to kill your control opponents, but that's not really a viable option.
Now you don't have to play that card anymore.
You can if you want. It's still a good removal spell early that maybe you can tag them late with. And also the nice part is you can often shuffle it back in with what's the card they play? Struggle to Survive if you're playing against Scarab God decks.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of ways, but having a one Banefire and ways to shuffle in your graveyard, you can over time, as long as you don't die, you can just Banefire them out. So it's a pretty interesting deck, and I think like that one card gave the deck a whole new angle of winning versus its formerly bad matchups.
Yeah.
So pretty cool to see. Like I think it's already good versus aggro and mid-range decks, and now it doesn't have to worry as much. There's a cool list that did well that was playing a Mirari Conjecture as well, which is cool. Like, you just don't want to pull all the lands out of your deck. Resolve Hour of Promises, right? Just get all the lands out of your deck, which get some 2/2 zombies, start activating Arch of Arazka, get to 25 land, and just Banefire them. And in the meantime, just make sure everything dies. Pretty cool deck. Cool to see it still doing well, but I think this deck is probably a real deck going forward.
It's also one that it's not at all obvious to me. Like, let's say this becomes tier one of the better decks. It's not even obvious to me how you start attacking this.
No, it's actually scary whenever a ramp deck is good. Whenever a ramp deck has been good, it's been miserable in the format to play against.
Because generally,
when Ulamog was good in Standard?
Yeah. Generally, the advice is like, go under it, be much faster, like kill them, take advantage of the fact that they take turns off to ramp. But then they're playing Sifter Worms and Palaka Worms. Like,
an Hour of Devastation.
You have such a small
Sweltering
window.
Suns,
Yeah.
like, good luck. Gift of Paradise. Like, the whole deck is designed
and we just
to
talked
not
about how
die.
now it has tools against control, so it's not like you can counter their, like, let them ramp and only counter the key things.
Yeah, I mean, you can play a couple Carnage Tyrants main if you want. Like there are flex slots in this deck. I did that actually. I played 2 main, I think, instead of like a Mirari Conjecture and something else. Like these are flex slots. You don't have to play them. They're not the essential part of the deck. And I played 2 Carnage Tyrants to kind of shore up those matchups and Scarab God decks, because also it doesn't die to Hour of Devastation. So you can like Hour of Devastation, the Scavenger, the Scarab God's board, Scavenger grounds them away, and then attack freely with Carnage Tyrant. So yeah, like there's lots of flex slots depending on going forward what the metagame looks like. You can build this deck in a lot of ways. You know, it has lots of ways to adapt. Some play a Braids main, some don't. Some play a bunch of removal mains, some don't. Like the deck is quite interesting. You can mill people out as a win condition with Ipnu Rivulet, versus like the Teferi decks before. That was a way to win as well. So yeah, deck's really cool. I think it's going to be actually powerful going forward, because the games I played with it, I felt like I couldn't lose.
I think the only thing holding this deck back, like weirdly enough, is that it just looks very gross on paper.
Oh yeah,
and I think that'll deter a lot of people from actually picking it up. But
yeah, you're playing Spring to Mind and like Gift of Paradise. Like it just looks so dumb and janky.
Yeah. But it's a lot more powerful than it looks.
Right? Because you can draw hands that have just like ramp and they do nothing and die.
Yeah. Like of course, the typical like ramp deck problem.
Yeah, I mean, you can still lose to aggro very easily because like there were no Hour of Devastations in your top 18 cards.
Yeah.
And you're just dead on the spot. Like for sure that can happen, and that's just ramp problem. That's just ramp life, right? So that'll deter people as well. But I think the deck is very strong, very, very powerful. And I think there's a lot more play to it because of the, the commits.
Yeah, and like the coolest thing about this strategy is, your Hour of Devastations are like they're turn 4 sweepers.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, not something most decks have access to.
Right.
And turn 4 is it's very key turns when your opponents play their Hazarets, their Chandras, And
it's the turn you can get a Chandra before it's up to 6.
Yeah, and I mean, just casting a three mana ramp spell to casting this on turn 4 is going to buy you a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is what you want. But yeah, so next deck list on the list here is DWC special.
Oh, it's a brew special right here.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and we still wanted to play with the mana base, but
yeah, the mana base is iffy. But this is one of those things where like other people have thought of this interaction, and it's kind of an obvious interaction. But we were impressed with how strong it actually turned out. And this is Abzan, a Johnny Constrictor. Just putting some couple white cards. We added Shalai and a Johnny.
Shalai because it's easy to cast, protects your snake late, and it makes counters.
Yeah, people were already doing that. They were already playing Abzan versions of Shalai Constrictor. And so if you make the mana base a bit more white, you can also play a Johnny. And the obvious synergy is, well, Johnny puts counters on things and Snake is good with counters. But I think the more powerful synergy is a Johnny's Minus. This is a deck built around protecting or having 1/2 that is powerful. If you've ever learned or played against this deck, everyone says like its 2-drops are most important. It's a 2-drop deck. Kill its 2-drops, and that disrupts the rest of it.
Right. Stop Glintsleeve. Stop Snake.
Right. Save your removal for those things. They can have whatever else. And a Johnny brings those problematic must-kill 2-drops back.
Yes. You wouldn't think that spending 4 mana to resurrect your snake would be as good as it is, but in our playtesting, it was unbelievable.
Because of exactly what I said, that they die a lot because they are must-kill. And if you bring one back, the snake is still the must-kill threat, not your Johnny.
Yeah.
And so they then spend whatever they're doing to kill the 2-drop you just brought back, and you still have a Planeswalker.
Yeah, I played a lot of matchups against Cam where I was playing different decks versus this deck, and I would, kill a snake, whatever 3-drop, play something out, try and play to the board, and then a Johnny would come down, minus and bring back the snake, and then I'm in a position where I can kill one or the other, and not both, because of the way the game's played out, and now I don't know what to do, right? And I probably just lose. And then if Shalai comes down, it's basically game.
Or like,
because like a 4 or 5 in the air from a tick up from a Johnny, and if there's a Constrictor in play, it's just like the game's just over. So like, yeah, Johnny just has so much synergy in this deck, and I think like breathes a lot of like late game power back into the deck that it didn't have. Like I think it gives the deck a lot of options.
It also basically draws a card if you ever bring back a Glintsleeve, because it either had enough energy to draw a card and that's why it died, or it made 1 energy and bringing it back makes the second.
Yeah, because there's no really other place you're going to spend it. Or in the meantime, you played out an Aether Hub and you got the energy from that. So, yeah, like you can just cash in and say, okay, I'll get back a Glint Sleeve in mid game, sometime in the mid game. You know that I just need more cards. Like, yeah, I played against Cam and he constantly just had like 6 cards in hand. You know, it was very frustrating. Yeah, the deck was very good. It was surprising. Yeah. I think it made up for a lot of problems that the Snake deck previously had.
One notable thing, if you're following along with our deck lists on our Twitter or on the Facebook page, you'll notice that this deck does not play Llanowar. We're playing 4 Servant of the Conduit instead. Do you guys want to touch on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, just as like an artifact of adding more tap lands to have more white mana for a Johnny, you kind of want to tap land on 1.
Yeah, we want to play Scatter Groves on 1 if we can.
So that you can play your 2 drops.
Yeah.
And have your mana develop more easily. And Servant is also like, I'd rather tick down on a Johnny on a Servant. I don't feel bad about that, where I'm never going to tick him down on a Llanowar.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's better to tick it up on a Servant too. Like a Servant,
it gets into combat easier. Like
having a 3/3, a 3/3 is like basically relevant in Standard. You know, a turn later having a 4/4 is very relevant. You know, the 1 power difference matters quite a bit. Having the energy floating around matters. And this deck also plays Walking Ballista, so like that's good with a Johnny. Just another no. But we also playing Adventurous Impulse.
Yeah, I'm playing Impulse instead.
On 1, if we don't have a tap land, Impulse was very good.
Yeah,
in this deck,
just to find things.
Just the mana can be rough, so we're aware of that.
It helps fix the colors. It always does what it used to do in these decks, which is find things. Another point about the Llanowar Elves is that this archetype doesn't take advantage of curving 1/3 as easily as well as something like Mono Green does, where they have Steel Leaf and Ronus.
Yeah,
but this deck does have a lot of 4-drops in like Chupacabra, Shalai, a Johnny, Contempt.
Yeah,
so skipping 2/4 is much more important in this deck.
Yeah, and the tap lands help you get 2/4 easier.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is a deck where the curve is all 2/4. Everything you do that matters is 2 and 4. 1 and 3 are sort of your fillers. But, yeah, I was really impressed with this deck. I thought a Johnny was just insane. It was just a solid workhorse deck. We sort of like played a lot of games where this deck was sort of the baseline tester for if a brew we played against was good. Like it would get smashed by this deck. You know, because this deck has a good early game. If you don't have removal, it punishes decks that don't interact early, and it also has now a better late game.
I wonder. So, like Green-Black Constrictor hasn't really been coming up in any of the recent tournaments. People are all on like Vinemare, Mono Green, aggressive stuff.
Yeah.
But I also said near the beginning of last Standard that I thought the control deck should go Esper, and they did eventually.
So you're thinking,
and everybody, and they didn't for a long time because they're like, oh, like the mana's too bad. You can't do it because of the mana. So I wonder how long it's going to take for people to stop saying that the mana is bad and like put a Johnny's into Constrictor.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but it definitely looks sweet. Yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
Yeah, what's up next?
We got some Gift of the God Pharaoh. So I played this deck before the printing of Stitcher Supplier, like way back when God Pharaoh's Gift kind of people started playing the deck a lot more.
Yeah. So we're talking about like blue-black Gate to the Afterlife gift, not the like white refurbish.
You know, right after Hostage Taker was printed, you know, that kind of version of the deck. And the deck was fine. But holy crap, man. Stitcher Supplier makes this deck so much better. It is not even, I can't even believe that I thought the deck was somewhat playable before, because it's just so unbelievably better now.
You would spend turns doing awkward things before, or hoping that like you would mill enough things with your minister to like get to 6 creatures, and sometimes you'd miss, and like it was always kind of this like fine line of can the deck actually function, and now there's just no question.
Yeah,
you just
it was
always
very
have a bunch of
awkward
creatures
before.
in your deck, in your graveyard.
Yeah,
you always have options for things to bring back.
Now your graveyard's just loaded. Like,
always, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how much this card changes the deck. It's just the level of consistency this card provides. Like
you have to actually worry about milling yourself now.
Like we're only talking about blue-black gift here, but I mean there's green-black gifts that
green-black
have done well, you know? Like this card single-handedly enables so much graveyard shenanigans, you know? It does exactly what graveyard decks. And it's funny to think this is just a worse Satyr Wayfinder, and it's still nuts.
Yeah.
You know, like we just want to put cards in our graveyard, and this gives us a chump blocker along the way. Mm-hmm. That comes back as a 4/4 later.
Yeah, man.
And re-enables our strategy. And you know what I mean? Like, card's insane.
It's absolutely absurd how good that card has been. And, like, one thing really cool about the deck is, you know, before before when Minister of Inquiry was your only one drop, and if say you got a Godpharaoh's Gift out and you were bringing that back, it was awkward because you can, if you wanted to keep like adding stuff to your graveyard, you'd have to activate it on your turn because the card that comes out of your graveyard gains haste until end of turn. So you couldn't bring it out, then block something on your opponent's turn and then still mill yourself. You'd have to mill yourself immediately, which could be a little awkward. But now, if you're bringing back a Stitcher Supplier, it just keeps refilling your graveyard, mills yourself immediately, then you can stay back to block or attack or do whatever. It just adds a few little like odd angles that you didn't have access before as well. But yeah, it's kind of, the deck's at the point now where you could just be straight blue-black. The deck, it's very good like that. Or you could just add Angel of Invention, which the deck did before.
Yep, there's so many options for this deck now. This card has opened up.
Yeah,
like
a lot. You could play a version where you're playing the 4 Aether Hubs and the 4 Concealed Courtyards. So maybe you could cast the Angel, or you could just...
You can bring back whatever you want.
You don't even have to do that. You could just be straight blue-black with 4 Angels and just kind of
pitch them with Champion and mill them.
Because they'll get into your graveyard.
You know what we actually do? Is we play Grixis, and we do the... whatever that Combat Celebrant. Stitcher Supplier Combat Celebrant Grixis deck.
Like you can play Bolus as a backup plan.
Yeah, board him in.
No, you play main.
Oh, yeah, sure. You can bring him back for free.
Yeah.
Is this the version we're going to post?
No, we don't have...
Maybe it is, Alex.
Maybe in the future, who knows? But if you're splashing for a card, like Angel's fine. But you just explained that like Stitcher Supplier refuels the deck so much more easily that...
It really does. It's
maybe like if you'll have that many more cards in your graveyard, you'll have Combat Celebrant that much more often. You'll have more of them that much more often.
I'm curious if someone's going to try like the red black goblins version with this card. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
There's tons of crazy gift decks, tons, and there have been multiple weird 5-0 lists, all basically because this card was printed. So I guess sort of the theme of this podcast is what you said before recording, right? Is these decks that were.
There was all these ideas. None of these things are like new ideas. They've all been around. There's been Black-White Knights that were bad. There's been Blue-Black Gift that were kind of bad. There's been Mono-Green that was okay.
Well, I remember Alex was like, I'm off it. That deck sucks. Like Blue-Black, you know?
Yeah.
All of these ideas were around, and the ones we're going to talk about as well, sort of.
Solidly tier 3 decks.
Right. And as generally happens when you get to the last set of a large standard, they each get the 1 or 2 cards they needed to put them in contention with the other tier 1 decks, and now you see everybody experimenting and actually balancing where the new power level is, because they were all just like a piece or 2 short.
Yeah, I'm loving this standard. There's just so many strategies you can take. Like we only have 10 on this list, but there's still like
there's one. I mean, the next one on our list, like I guess we talked about Stitcher Supplier enough. We can probably move on.
Yeah.
The next one on our list is like this. You would not have convinced me that this would top 8 a PTQ, an online PTQ.
Yeah.
In standard.
Mono blue Aetherflux Reservoir
combo, right? Aetherflux Reservoir combo with a bunch of Psy Maverick Thopterus as enablers.
Yeah.
This deck's playing Mox Amber. Like this deck got a lot, but this is an Inspiring Sanctuary. You know, Mox Amber, Ornithopter, Psy Maverick Thopterus, Aetherflux Reservoir combo.
Paradoxical outcome.
Yep, paradoxical
just a
outcome.
Vintage deck.
Yeah,
Mox is an outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ban this deck. Ray Future Pro, Ray Perez, top 8ing the Moto PTQ with this deck. It's wild. I can't believe that this is a standard deck.
Yeah, and
that it's top 8. You know
I've
what
seen
I mean?
multiple variations of this deck 5-0ing on leagues.
Because it really the only card it got, the only new card here is Psy.
Yeah.
But it, like as we were just saying, it's that one piece that it needed. Like Psy does so much. You're playing Statuary, so everything you cast basically is now 2 mana dorks instead of 1.
Well, Statuary, it's an interesting card because
your non-artifact
spells gain improvise, but you're playing Baral's Expertise.
Yeah.
You know, you're playing Paradoxical Outcome.
Yeah, so every artifact you cast now comes with a Thopter, which is an extra mana dork for your non-artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must, like, I obviously have 0 experience with this deck, but it just, Psy Aspiring Sanctuary must let you just kind of...
Pop off?
Yeah, pop off immediately.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, cool deck. Cool to see like that there's this style of combo as well in standard. It feels like it's been a long time.
I mean, people were trying it before.
I know it was bad.
Yeah.
But it just was missing like those 1 or 2 pieces, right? Mm-hmm. So pretty sweet. Yeah. So that's all I really got about that one.
Not much else to talk about when we're looking at this deck. But next one we have. So you guys,
We've been spending a lot of time. Man, you have no idea how much time we've spent trying to make a good Resplendent Angel list.
The potential's there.
Because, I mean, that card is very powerful.
Just reads so well.
It's in testing is like often the best card in the deck in the various decks we tried it in. It's very threatening.
Yeah.
Very, very threatening.
We've tried so many versions because we'll come up with some list that we think Resplendent Angel will be good in. And in the first 1 or 2 games, someone will draw and cast a Resplendent Angel and it'll just take over the game. It'll make a bunch of 4/4s. It'll be hard to deal with. They'll deal with the first and the second one will run over the game. And then in the next couple games, that person just won't draw Resplendent Angel and we'll realize that the rest of the deck is trash and we'll move on to trying another Resplendent Angel deck. And the same thing kind of happens because it's hard to fit enough support into these colors that also doesn't just that's been our biggest problem is that all of these decks just kind of fold to control.
Yes. The biggest problem was, okay, so I will preface that any list we post that's a green-white deck, I still haven't 100% decided which list I'm going to post as a green-white Resplendent Angel list. They are awful versus control. So bad. You have game 1 is unwinnable.
Because every reason that the activations on Thorn Lieutenant or Resplendent Angel or whatever other card we were talking about are good and threatening against creature matchups and mid-range matchups, because they're unpredictable, because you don't have to commit to them, they're bad for those reasons against control. Because control just will take 3 unless you commit and then you get blown out.
Yeah. It's so bad. So the sideboard is bad. So Cam and I have been talking that we think the deck actually needs to be Bant Resplendent Angel.
Bant
it needs
or
to have
Abzan
access to
or-
negate or duress. Or you just can't do enough. But if you can clear the way, to create a 4/4 army, it's pretty good. But in the creature matchups, this deck was hilarious. So we played various versions. I tried a Resplendent Angel list with Prepare to Fights because that is a wombo combo.
Yeah, seems good.
Because the deck also had Blossoming Defense to protect it if we needed it. We tried it in a Crusted Sunmare build with trying to really go off.
Yeah, I played it in mono white.
We played a mono white life.
Not a lot
game.
played to the mono white deck, but Angel is pretty good.
Yeah, Angel is good. Wait, what was the card we tried it with? The Mare?
Angel was fine with Diamond Mare. Crested Sun Mare was nuts with Diamond Mare.
Nuts with Diamond Mare, dude. It's indestructible.
Didn't make the list.
Yeah, it didn't make the list. But that deck was really funny. I think it won a match. No, maybe only a game. I don't know.
It definitely won a game because you were playing green white and you had no removal for 5 indestructible 5/5s.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of stupid Crested Sunmares. I couldn't do anything because you had 2 Crested Sunmares in play.
Oh man, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We tried a bunch of different decks with Resplendent Angel. That card's very, 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 very good, but the problem is that green-white as a color combination isn't too powerful, and a lot of it is something Alex pointed out is that you want to abuse Llanowar Elves, but all the best 3-drops are double white 1. They're all History of Benalia and Resplendent Angel.
Yeah.
So it's not great. I think actually secretly the best place for Resplendent Angel is in Black-White Knights. As just a good 3-mana. Yeah, well, and Monument is nuts.
Oh yeah.
If you're playing a Monument version of Black-White Knights, just a 2-white 3/3 flyer that makes 1/1.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That's actually ridiculous.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be the version we post. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I did have a Bant Monument green-white kind of Resplendent Angel list, and so maybe that's the one we post. I think that deck was actually quite strong because it also plays the Hero of Bladehold Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just has more play to it because it's got blue cards in it. And
yeah, and I think you sort of need it versus control. You need to have negates.
Yeah, Teferi will be around. He's kind of flying under the radar at the moment, but that card's going to come back in full force.
Yep. So we'll post that deck list, but there's so suffice to say, we've tried a lot of Resplendent Angel lists, and the card's very good. Let's go to Lyra, obviously.
Yeah.
The problem is the color combination is kind of weak.
Yeah.
Do we have to talk about this deck on air?
Yes.
It's so embarrassing.
Oh man.
Why?
So
Adam,
I built this
you
deck.
just talked about how you thought the Sifter Worm deck looked embarrassing, but it was actually good.
I built this deck as sort of a joke. So the history of this deck was we were like, man, Vine Mare is so obnoxious. How can we?
There's the history of this deck is you always but have had this idea since you played these cards in Limited.
Yeah.
You've mentioned it. I remember you mentioning it years ago. This is probably good. But
this deck has to have Vine Mare somewhere in the 75.
Yeah,
right?
I mean the sideboard. I don't have a sideboard. These are just random cards that I put in there to filler.
All right, it'll have Vine Mares in the sideboard.
all right, but to introduce the deck, This is 4-color trial cartouche Boggles combo.
This is an Enchantress deck I built. It's an
Yes.
Enchantress deck. I used to play Enchantress when I was a kid. Yeah, Yavimaya Enchantress and all these cards when I was a kid in Saga and stuff, as a big casual. And so I built this deck as an homage. And originally it was because I wanted to build a standard Boggles list to see if it would be good, but all the hexproof creatures cost too much.
Yeah.
And so it resulted in me saying, yeah, screw it. Like, you can't do it. And then I just sort of had a bunch of cards still in the deck editor that I was just moving in and out. And I built this abomination that is basically Enchantress that's trying to gum up the board as long as is playing all basically 2 and 3 drops. Like, it's got like
I love how the curve is 1, 2, 3, 6.
yeah. There's no 4 or 5 drops, and it's all 1 to 3. All the entire. It's a very low to the ground deck, except for it has 4 Carnage Tyrants, because it's an Enchantress deck, and we're trying to put cartouches and everything. And I thought this deck would be so bad.
I think those Carnage Tyrants could very easily be Vine Mares, though.
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Stay a little more low to the ground.
Yeah, but the deck actually not very good versus control.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it is because it's playing. It plays Trial of Strength, which is actually like a very, very insane card in this deck. You constantly are picking it up. Like, it plays 4 white cartouches, cameos, 4 blue cartouches, 2 green. Because originally I played a bunch of black cartouches to beat mono red. Then I realized the mono red matchup was like not bad, and I can just move them to the sideboard for mono red. But we actually can't beat Shalai in a million years because the deck plays 4 Trial of Ambition to make them, and its target opponent sacks a creature, and so Shalai would come down against like.
See, like, all these cards sound so goofy until you hear about how the games play out, and it's not like always playing Trials and cartouches. It's that I am playing a creature and edicting you every turn.
Yes, so this is how the games ended up playing out. Like, Cam would tap out and play. Like, I'd turn 1 Llanowar Elves, let's say, right? And then he'd tap out and play, I don't know, Glintsleeve Siphoner, and I would trial him, play a cartouche on my Llanowar Elf just for the value of picking it up and now having a 2/2 just to be safe against, like, I don't know, a Chain Whirler if I was playing against it, right? And now I have the trial back in my hand. What's he going to do? And he just like get locked out of the game, like, because the flying card, right? And then I'm playing Thorn Lieutenant just as, it's fine to put an enchantment on, but it makes it so they can't really tap out, but you don't need to worry. But the deck's playing 4 SRAM. And for Satyr Enchanter, and that's what really pushed the deck over the top, was having access to these and all these cheap auras. Like, in the sideboard, I was going to put Compulsory Rests because it's an aura, so it triggers Strom, right?
Okay, yeah.
But all the cartouches trigger. They all pick up all the different trials, which are all I'm really playing is Trial of Strength, Trial of Ambition. But like, once you set up, like, their removal's taxed, and the thing is, like, these cards, these Enchanter cards, are cast triggers. The enchantments don't have to resolve.
Yeah.
So these 8 enchanters that you play, like, have to be killed on spot. But there are turns, if you are not an idiot, because you're playing a bunch of 1 mana cartouches, where you have a bunch of mana sitting around, you can wait for them to tap out and then just go nuts.
Yeah. And
you have a way to control the board in trials. It seems like such a bad deck, but like, I'm still certain it is. But I kept waiting. I don't know, ask Cam. I don't know what to type.
He's just kept winning with it. I was skeptic when you put it in chat. I was like, this looks absurd.
Thought it wouldn't be great. I mean, like, edicting every turn, like, sounds pretty good. Like, but like, it just draws so many cards. Like, I was legitimately conceding to 1 mana cartouches because it was drawing 2 off a SRAM and an Enchantress.
Yeah,
and it was picking up 2 Trial of Ambition and a Trial of Strength. Like, it was a 1 mana draw 5, 2 of which are creatures, 1 of which is a removal spell.
Yeah.
Like, so many decks that we tried couldn't beat just an edict every turn or drawing that many cards. Like,
right, like, all the fair decks couldn't beat it, right? All it took was drawing 1 Trial of Ambition to go off, and then you just edict them every turn.
Like, or
twice a turn.
One of the games I won was to having, like, Bolus, Glarebringer, and being able to attack in the air as Adam, like, savagely flooded.
Yeah, I didn't lose that match, though. The deck, like, lost a match because I don't have a sideboard. I didn't have a sideboard in testing at the time. It lost a match to Mono Red, where it was a insanely close game 3. To the point where I bricked for, like, a bunch of turns running, and had I drawn a single cartouche, of which there are many in the deck, I probably win. Because I can Trial Ambition Hazard it.
Its top decks are so nuts, too, because its top decks are, if you draw a cartouche as a top deck, you are also drawing all of the trials that you have in play.
That's not bad.
And like you have Carnage Tyrant to like
Yeah.
go
or
to town.
Vine Mare if that's how you build it.
Yeah. And
Like-
obviously, we're talking about all these 4-color cards. The downside of this deck, of course,
Is its mana.
The mana is not good.
The mana is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it can be a bit rough.
And I'm only playing 22 lands.
Like, so.
The curve is 1, 2, and 3 though. Come
Yeah.
on, give me a break. And also has 4 Land of Werewolf. So really I'm playing 24 lands because mana dorks count as 25.
So obviously, sleeve this up at your own risk. We're not saying it's good. Or we
I
might be saying it's good.
think
but
Cam is on board that it's good now.
I mean, if you want me to admit that Sifter Worm is good, then you can't disqualify this for the same reasoning that it looks goofy.
It looks so incredibly bad. I get it. Like I'm embarrassed that I keep winning with it. Because I would never take that. I would never take this to like a GP. You couldn't pay me. Well,
Why?
definitely could pay me. Because like it's okay. It's not a pride thing. I just don't think it's that good. But I
Yeah,
think
it's not
that you
worked
could
on yet,
take.
but-
It's not tuned, but I think that you could take this deck as is and like smash an FNM, no problem.
So like
Our friend won a PPTQ with mono blue flyers.
that's what I was gonna. Oh,
Yeah.
You know, like
So I thought you were gonna mention like another friend of ours won a PPTQ with the recent blue white heroic deck, like blue white
yeah.
auras with the Dantos Vanguard.
Yeah,
is that the card?
He beat me in the finals.
Yeah. And like that deck was around and could win. And this deck feels to me to be very similar, but it just has more play to it. It has more options. It draws more cards.
yeah, this deck is a better version of that deck.
If it doesn't stumble on mana, it can just do what that deck does and more.
Yeah, this deck's wild.
And there's probably a better way to build this mana base that
Oh, yeah,
we
I just-
haven't put any time into.
I didn't put any time into it because
Yeah.
I wasn't taking this deck seriously.
Yeah.
But I think it's a cool brew. So if anyone, the 10th deck we talked about, if anyone's like into a unique brew that's playing some wacky cards, this deck, I don't know. I think it's actually like has some play to it. It's pretty interesting. It was a lot of fun. It won a lot in testing, which I am still shocked about.
I want to take this to an FNM.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go Friday and play it.
We don't have 4 card, or we don't have 8 card insurance.
So one of us can play. I'll play
Oh,
Nightmares.
and we can compare.
Yeah, we could compare notes. That's just
Carnage
testing.
Tyrants and Vine Mares. Yeah. We got to get some Thorn Lieutenants, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure we have a lot of cartouches.
Yeah, we'll take it out for a spin at F&M. But
Cool.
those are our 10 archetypes, I guess, that we think are cool and standard that we've been playing, or brews that are reasonable to, take out for a spin in this early standard meta. Plus, we didn't talk about the obvious like tier 1 sort of red, black, blue, white control decks.
And the updated versions of
Yeah, those
lists,
decks are boring.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other ideas too. We have like on a whiteboard at home. There's like a bunch of ideas that we just
Yeah, we should
haven't,
almost post a picture of our whiteboard,
that we
which
just
is like,
haven't come up with lists for yet, or haven't tried to explore like what cards it could have picked up from M19. Because like all these ideas that have been around, or maybe new ideas,
Yeah.
have things now.
we have there's a bunch of decks we still haven't crossed off the list at home.
We were playing for the 4-drop demon deck,
Oh yeah, the 4-drop demon deck was cool.
Rites of Belzenlock. It makes its own demon, but like the O1 clerics are also really good to sack to Demon of Catastrophes.
So we were playing the 6/6 demons deck.
Yeah.
Just play the number of the beasts over and over.
Yeah.
4 mana, just a deck that's all knights and 4 mana 6/6s. It was pretty good actually. It was surprising.
You bet we're gonna get asked about that one too.
Oh,
The
yeah.
one we didn't post.
Well, I mean, like the deck's just obviously good. It has History of Benalia, Knight of Malice, Knight of Grace.
Yeah. Well, you know
a
what-
bunch of 4-drop demons. And then Frascus Contempts and like what do you want? Like
We were
like,
talking about how the Knights deck
Oh,
was
it had
good.
Resplendent Angel too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was playing Resplendent
Oh.
Angel and it was awesome.
that messed up my point.
Sorry.
I was going to talk about how like we mentioned maybe the black-white deck wants to play angels, and then I was going to pit that against, well, maybe it wants to play demons.
Oh,
But you can just put them all in, knights, angels, and demons.
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Triple tribe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up.
Just a bunch of wacky brews.
Thank you
So
all for
let's-
joining the club this week. Make sure. as
Did we
always
do
you
our
check
plug?
out- I'll put it at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
You ruined my talk.
Get ready.
Well, cut it out then.
No way. We're doing it live. Thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic Single needs. If any of these deck lists caught your eye, just definitely check out Wizard Tower. You can pick up some sweet new cards.
Yeah, you can get your singles there from NTG Canada.
Free shipping on singles here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And however you listen to this podcast, whether it's on Podbean, iTunes, your podcast app, share it with your friends, leave us a review. Everything helps the podcast grow. And if you want to get in contact with us, you can find us on Twitter at DWC Podcast 1 or on Facebook, the Disorganized Wizard Club Podcast. Shoot us a message. Love hearing from people. If there's deck lists that we didn't already post on our Twitter or Facebook, shoot us a message. We're happy to send it to you. And yeah, thanks for listening. I think this is going to become a regular thing. Whenever a new set comes out, we'll do a
deck dump.
A deck dump after week 1 standard. Sounds like a good idea. I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, this was sweet.
Well, yeah, we'll catch you all next week. Thanks for listening.
Later.